So we just got this little air compressor from Harbor Freight, Pittsburg brand. You know, that's the brand that you find at Harbor Freight. Normally I don't I don't like getting stuff at Harbor Freight. You know, most of the stuff is junk. Every once in a while you find something that's might be worth it, and this is one of those things. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, that looks kind of neat. It's a nice big motor, which is cool. It's actually pretty much all metal. The only thing that's plastic is this. It's all the black stuff here. The handle, the case ends, and the pressure gauge protector here. Otherwise, it's all metal. So I got this at Harbor Freight on sale for about 25 bucks, 26 bucks, I think it was. You know, it plugs into a cigarette adapter. So the thing that caught my eye was that was pretty much all metal, and it's pretty heavy, pretty beefy. So I was like, oh, that looks pretty nice, and I looked through it, and opened up the box and looked at it. I was like, oh, this is pretty nice, considering what it is. So I decided to pick it up. So when I got home, I was and turned it on and everything. I was surprised at how quiet it was. Then later on, I found out that it was a direct drive. The motor here is connected directly to the piston, to the crank. So there's no gears. So that's why it's so quiet. It's direct drive. It goes up to 100 psi. This gauge is actually not that accurate. I think it's off by about 2 or 3 psi or so. And so it shows a little bit high on the high side compared to my other gauge. But then I have like 4 or 5 gauges, and they're all about 2 or 3 psi away from each other. So what's really accurate or not, I have no idea. But personally, I think this one's a little bit on the high side though. It comes with the cigarette adapter for your car. In here, there's actually a little tube fuse. You can take this off, and you see a little tube glass fuse. Right, that's a 15 amp fuse. So the key with this air compressor, and when you get it, you have big old labels along with the owner's manual and stuff. It's very clear. It says, do not mount the hose. It also comes with this nice hose. It says basically don't mount the hose. Don't mount the hose on and connect the hose to the tire, the valve, and turn it on, because that will basically blow the fuse. So what you have to do is this is how it's connected. It has this nice hose. Everything's metal here as well. So this screws onto your valve, for your tires, right? So you screw that on so that's mounted. It's pressurized. That's how I do it. I mount this on. Then I actually turn it on, let it run. Then I connect the quick coupler here, so that way it doesn't blow your fuse. And the reason why it needs that is because of that direct drive. Instead of having a gear, most of the time with these type of compressors, the motor actually has a little gear that connects to the crank, and that gives it a lot of leverage. Well, in this case, since it's a direct drive on here, it doesn't have that much leverage. So when it first initially starts, and if you connect it to the line and everything, it's all pressurized, and you push it on, there's so much pressure that it has to work against that it puts more load onto the motor. That extra load basically, it stresses that fuse and it pops that fuse. So that's the reason why you do that. And I'm gonna open this up and so you can see what I'm talking about there. Everything is pretty much metal. Actually, before I do that, let me talk about the rest of this thing. It's really neat. Little nice little handle. It's about 7 inches or so, I think, wide, and about 5 inches or so in height. The one thing I don't like about it is where this wire comes out here. So when it sits on the ground here, and it's running and shaking, over time this will basically abrade away, right? So they should have put it on out coming from the back. So one of these days, when I get a chance, when I have time, I'm going to relocate that to the back here. So let me open this up and show you guys what I was talking about earlier. This is where the intake is for the the compressor. Use this side. I don't know why I keep on doing things with my left hand. I'm right-handed. Do my screwdriver is a little on the big side. It's a little on the big side. Yeah, it might be a little bit on the big side. So what the owner's manual says is that after using this thing about, I think they said like 20 times or something like that, you should oil it. So basically, what that means is you need to oil the piston inside. So okay, I got that off. So basically, just slide this off, and now you can see the inside. So you see it's all metal here, so that's cool. So the engine, the motor here, obviously is connected right to the crank here. You actually see it. Right, so you're kind of spinning as the piston. As this right here goes up and down, you see the piston up in here. So basically, when you oil it, all you need is a few drops of oil, right? A few drops of oil along with the piston is. You can actually see 2 holes on the side of the piston where the rod is, the connecting rod. A drop of oil in each of those, and I think a few drops along with the sleeve is, and that should be good. So this thing's all all metal, so that's cool. So the direct drive, so it doesn't have that leverage ratio. On other compressors similar to this, there's actually a little gear on the end of the motor, on the spindle. That gear connects to another gear onto the crank. So in that case, they have a lot more leverage. The gear that's on the motor is usually a small little one, whereas the gear on the crank is a big one. So you get all that extra leverage, the extra power, extra torque, so that way it doesn't load the motor too much. Other cool thing about this motor is, on this pump is that this is a big motor for what it is. Usually these little things, these little portable pumps have tiny little motors that are literally like that big or so around. So it's not, so this thing is a lot beefier. So I really like it. I should actually put this back, and I could run it, and you can actually compare how it sounds, how loud it is, comparing this to one with the gear drive. You get an idea of how quiet it is. So that's the neat thing about this compressor. Screwdriver I'm using is a little bit on the big side for this. So also, I should have showed you guys when I had this off. Right behind where these holes are, is also like a little sponge type material, so it's like a little filter as well. Okay, so I have my little portable compressor here. This is a Costco one, and you see it on my other videos, so I'm going to use that as a power source. Let's hook this up, and you can see how quiet it is. for yourself. I'm gonna compare these two compressors. This one actually has a gear in it. I open this up and it has a gear drive in it. So let's listen to how loud this is versus how loud the one with the gear drive is. Alright, and this one. And to realize that this is also, encased in a plastic housing, so that makes it a little bit quieter, but it's still louder, higher pitch compared to this. Let me block this hose right here and put it under some pressure, and you see how much quieter it is, how more quiet it is. That versus this good one. You can block this off too, and you can see how quiet it is as well. So it's still louder, right? You hear that those gears running. So yeah, so this little Harbor Freight pump is pretty neat, so I like it. So I bought this basically so I could leave it in my bikes when I'm on a road trip or something, so I could have a little pump that I could easily connect to a 12-volt basically my battery. And I need to rig something up to connect this cigarette lighter adapter on it, but that's why I bought it for traveling around, and this is perfect. Thank you.